You're listening to the Deep Purple Podcast, a fan podcast about one of the most legendary bands of all time, Deep Purple. We take a look at the music, history, and people behind the band Deep Purple and beyond. Welcome to the Deep Purple Podcast, the first and only podcast devoted to one of the greatest bands in rock history, Deep Purple. Today's episode is episode number 68, Deep Purple Whoosh, Part 1. And coming to you from the whoosh-tastic late-night suburbs of Chicago, I'm your host, Nathan Beaudry.
And coming to you from Providence, Rhode Island, John Stiletto Matola.
Stiletto?
I couldn't get through it. Yeah.
So was the stiletto heel invented in Rhode Island?
That's what it made me think of. That's why I'm laughing, because
It's
it's
got to be
so
Italian or something, right?
So 80s. No, the first torpedo boat, Stiletto, was built in 1887 in Bristol.
1887? They were shooting off torpedoes in 1887?
Yeah, I guess.
Wow.
But yeah, no stiletto heels though. I was just picturing a reaction of just like stiletto heels.
Stiletto. Well, I know they had that. Did they still have that Russian sub? Remember they had that Russian sub in Providence, and then I think it sank. It was like a museum. They had like a well, that wasn't a replica. It was an actual Russian sub, and they set it up in wherever the hell that is downtown in the water, and they had it so you could like go on it and check it out, and then just one day it sank. So you can't. I think it's well,
it is a sub.
Yeah, I know it was. So it's like it was just kind of there for a while. I know it's a Soviet sub, K-77. It's a Foxtrot class sub. This is the one, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, K-77 docked in Providence, Rhode Island. It was decommissioned. It was in Finland. eBay. They tried to sell it on eBay.
Oh, our state.
No bids were received. Nobody even made like a fake. Yeah, sinking. Here it is. The submarine sank on April 18th, 2007 after a storm, and plans were never made to raise it off the river bottom. So it's still just there,
just hanging out.
A sunken Russian sub just hanging out in Providence. Like, what do you know?
Oof, das vidanya. That's all I know how to say in Russian. So, ay caramba.
Ay caramba.
Ay caramba.
Ay caramba is very appropriate given today's subject matter. But before we get into that, we would like to. This is a very special episode, obviously. This is the first time we're reviewing something. It's late at night. We've just gotten our hands on a fresh copy, fresh off the presses, still warm. It's actually a digital download. So
still warm.
So I even checked out Discogs to see like, do they have information about it? So we got nothing. We don't know the liner notes or anything. We know some basics about the album, but not going to be our normal, like, here's who did what. We know all the musicians on the album, so there's not a heck of a lot to go into in that regard. We know Bob Ezrin produced it. Beyond that, we don't have any, like, other than the stuff that's just been kind of put out on social media, no like cool stories or anything. Just that this is their their latest album just out, and we're going to have this episode out hopefully today, the day that the album comes out. So that's the goal anyway. Despite some stupid computer issues, we should be able to meet that deadline. So that was our promise to a lot of people, is to get this out the day it comes out, and this will be our first look at the album, our first or listen. And other than the two of the singles that were released, I haven't heard anything. So
I haven't heard any of it at all.
You didn't listen to the singles?
Nope. Nope. I
only
decided
had the first two, and then I tried to ignore them, but I just couldn't. So
I'm good at that. I'm good at ignoring things. So,
but before we move on, we would like to remind you, if you want to help support the show, the best ways to do it are leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, and then also please, if you would want to support the show, become a patron on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. That's right, you can help support the show, and we would really, really appreciate it. Speaking of patrons, oh my goodness. Once again, he did it again. Steve Seaborg has created a new tier, the $25 Super Trooper tier. Wow. We keep naming this ultimate tier like super great name. Like if him and Ryan M fight it out to the $100 range, what are we going to start calling these things? The double, triple, platinum, elite, whatever. I mean, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you so much, Steve, for your continued support. At the $20 Shades of Deep Pockets tier, Ryan M. The $15 Highball Shooter tier, currently vacant. The Turn It Up to $11 tier, Alan Ain't Too Proud to Beg. At the $10 Someone Came tier, heyo, Richard Fusey coming in from PayPal, the tax-free haven of PayPal. Thank you, Richard, for your help and your donations. We really appreciate it. So there's only one vacant tier now, and that's the $15 tier. At the $5 Moneylender tier, we have Clay Wambacher, Greg Sealby, Frank Teelgard Mortensen, Mike Knowles, John Convery, and Arthur Smith. New alert. Arthur Smith, who we've been in a lot of contact with on the various, I think might be Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Lots of great dialogue. Really appreciate Arthur for his support of the show. Really, really great to see that. And then, German Heindel, not to be undone. It's like they knew that this week was the Whoosh episode. Everyone just came out of the woodwork and said, we got to be in on this show. We got to be supporting and helping produce this show during this amazing time. So thank you so much to all of you. Really, really appreciate it. Then, of course, we would never, ever forget our $3 tier patrons. That's the $3 Nobody's Perfect tier. So that coming in at that tier, we've got Peter Gardeau, Ian DeRosier, Mark Roback, and Anton Glaving. And, of course, the $1 made-up name tier, we have Els Murders, Spacey Noodles, the Apparitional Leaky Mausoleum, and Michael Veda. Thank you so much to all of you. We really appreciate it. So we've got, of course, Whoosh just coming out, as we said, and a few people were like, hey, you guys gonna do a live stream of the album? I was like, yeah, that sounds really cool, but we don't really know how to do that. So we're gonna do what we do, and maybe one day we'll figure out how to do. We've been talking about doing like some streams and stuff. We just don't really quite have our act together yet for that.
Yeah, I think a live stream would be cool.
It'd be great, but we'd have, we also have to kind of have people, we got so many people in the UK that listen, but when we record, it's, 3 or 4 in the morning there. So that's not great for them. It'd be great for our East or our American listeners, especially if you're out on the West Coast. Timing might work out really well, but no plans for that just yet. A quick thank you to our brothers of the Deep Dive Podcast Network, Riot, Sabbath Bloody Podcast, The Simple Man at Skinner Reconsidered, and Terry T-Bone Mathley, T-Bone's Prime Cuts. Will any of them be able to do an album right as it's coming out? Black Sabbath, Ozzy maybe. Well, he just came out with one, didn't he?
Yeah.
So who knows?
But I don't know. I think his days are numbered.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be funny. It sounds like he hasn't been healthy, so I don't know if he's going to be doing any more music. Yeah,
his health has been pretty bad. Yeah, and then obviously Skinner. Anything Skinner's going to be releasing lately, the Simple Man is probably not too into. Although I did like when he on his Christmas episode when he dissected some of their things off of their Christmas album. It was pretty awesome. Of the quality level you would expect. Thanks, of course, to our patron saint and archivist. That is the one, the only Jorg Planer. Thank you so much for your support. All right. So, this album was one of the many, many artistic casualties of COVID-19. It was supposed to be released June 12th. And, you can't help but feel bad for all the people working on this album and working working to bring this album forward, because you could see the whole marketing thing gearing up and ratcheting up leading up to this, and then they delayed it. They had, really released a super pixelated version of the cover, and then, they were just putting all these teasers in, and then they had to push everything back, and it unfortunately turned into this kind of anticlimactic thing, which is we're seeing happen with so many things, movies and all sorts of things. So yeah, June 12th never happened, but August 7th did, and it did get released, which is awesome. So the lineup of the band it's the interesting thing about this is the lineup of the band that's had the most album releases now with this release. Mark II only released really in their first original incarnation, they only released the 4 albums, and then of course the concerto, which is debatable if you want to count that or not. But this is 5 in a row from this lineup. 18 years they've been together, which is the longest standing any incarnation of the band has been together. Rich on Facebook pointed that out to me the other day, which I thought was, really cool that they've got 5 major releases now, and yeah, that they've been together longer than any other lineup. So awesome stuff. We would normally go through the lineup of the band. I don't think we need to at this point. I think we've covered all of these folks in pretty good detail. The one we've probably covered the least as far as actual music output is Don Airey, but we've had him on the show, so that's got to count for something. But we've only covered, I think, 1 album with Don Airey on it so far. So yeah, this will be the second Don Airey offering that we're covering. And yeah, so there's the only thing we have right now to cover as far as album art goes is the cover, because like I said, we don't have the back cover, we don't have any liner notes or what it's going to look like. I do have on order the LP and the CD, but I saw some people today saying that they got emails saying that the CD was going to be delayed by an extra couple of days. So even by the time we do part 2, which will only probably be a day or 2 from now, they're still not going to have the physical copy. At least I doubt I would. But this album cover, we've talked about this album cover a ton leading up to this, but we don't unfortunately have the information as to who designed it and all that. Somebody out there probably does, but soon when we get all that information, or if Discogs ever updates, we'll have it. But John, what do you think about this cover?
I think it's pretty neat. I like the kind of muted like color palette. There's I like that the background is purple. Call back to having, Deep Purple having purple on their album cover, the kind of retro-ish logo. And then the pixelated space guy, I think, is it's just really cool. It's very detailed. It's a really neat album cover. It's not like overdone or too, complicated. It's just, I like it. It seems very appropriate for current Deep Purple, because their album covers have been, they just, they weren't, I would say, as, groundbreaking or unusual as they were in the early days, but they've been, I guess a little quirky, offbeat. It's not just a picture of the band, so something a little different.
Yeah, I like that they did a font that was reminiscent of the original logo. Not quite the same font. The R is like a little different, and the letters are a little different, but it's pretty close. And like we've talked about in a number of episodes, I would rate this among one of my favorite of their album covers. What this album holds inside, there's been contemplation that that's a concept album, or that there's a lot of stuff being tied together. It definitely seems like it's going to be a somewhat new direction for them. So I'm really interested to listen to more than what's been released. They released 3 singles so far. March 20th, they released Throw My Bones. April 30th, Man Alive. Those are the only 2 I've heard. They've also released just a few weeks ago, Nothing at All, on July 10th. I didn't listen to that one because I figured, hey, let's save it for the episode. But I will say that I really like Throw My Bones, which is the album opener and their first single. I really liked it. I'm looking on their Wikipedia page for this album, and there's really nothing. It's just, you know, the members of the band and Bob Ezrin, like I just said. Something that anyone with a passing knowledge would know. It's got a track listing. It only has times for the 3 songs that were released. So, and it mentions about being postponed due to COVID-19. So very interesting little snapshot there, but no information about who did this artwork. But whoever did this album cover, I think top notch, really, really good looking album cover. I'm really liking it. Okay, and it does definitely kind of summons that Avengers. What is it? Which Avengers is it? The Endgame or whatever, where he snaps his fingers and the superheroes start disappearing. Did you see that movie?
No, I don't know. I'm not into comic books, movies, or
spoilers. It's so funny because people get like, I know like a lot of friends that get super serious about the Marvel movies, like, oh, spoilers, and you know, like I always tell them, I'm like, listen, I don't care. Like I grew up on comics and I like a lot of those characters, but I was like, I just don't care. There's nothing that you could spoil me on that's going to happen in one of these movies. And it's always funny to me. They're like, when a superhero dies in a movie and everyone's like all sad, like, it's like, what is wrong with you? You know, they're not dead. Like, there's never been a superhero that's died and then they're just like, well, I guess that's, you know, oh no, Spider-Man died. Oh no, like they're not going to make another Spider-Man movie now. They're just like, well, he's gone. He had a good run. It's the property alone is just too valuable. They're not going to kill off Spider-Man. They're not going to kill off Iron Man. I don't care how sad you think it is. They'll be back in the next movie, and they'll have some convoluted reason for time travel or whatever for why they survived after all. And but anyway, at one point Thanos snaps his fingers and people start like turning into dust, and it looks very similar to this album cover. They just start disintegrating off into the air, and kind of conjures up images of that. So don't be worried about this astronaut. I'm sure that Doctor Strange will create some sort of time loop and he'll be okay. All right. So should we, that's it, man. Should we just get into it? I feel like this is the moment we've been waiting for.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So first track up, the title track here. And I don't want you to miss a second of this riff here. So let me share the screen. And that's the opening track, Throw My Bones.
Lies ahead, it's all a mystery, man. I heard it said, you do your thing, you do your best. I take a guess what will happen next. All I got is what I need, and that's enough as far as I can see. Why should I
hearing the bass a lot more clearly than I've heard in previous listens.
Yeah, really full sound.
Cause what I got here, what I'm holding in my hand, is better for me than some promised land.
King Gillan sounds really good.
Sounds great, and double tracking his vocals in spots.
But I mean, it's like if you close your eyes, sounds like Ian Gillan from like the past 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, well,
I think at this range, he hasn't lost his voice.
Nope. Heavy.
Even like the opening riff was very reminiscent of something like maybe Ritchie would have played, you know.
I love those little staccato
Who's to
runs that he always
say
throws in his solos.
you can't
It sounds
escape
great.
tomorrow. It's another day. I'm hanging here. I'm here on solid ground. 'Cause heaven's full are closing down. All I got is what I need. That's enough as far as I can see. Why should I walk into the great unknown when I can sit here and throw my bone? Oh yeah.
A little fade out there.
I think the music was a little too loud, though. I had to like yell to talk to you, so maybe
I can kick it down a notch
need
for
to
the next.
bring it down just a little bit.
Yep.
Not that I minded it being that loud. It's just if I can't hear myself talk to you, then that's no bueno.
No bueno for the show. So yeah, my audio settings are kind of more right now adjusted for the sounds of the 70s. It's not ready for the compression levels that you get in 2020.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So there we go. Okay, I adjusted it down about 10%. That should hopefully help. But yeah, Throw My Bones, the album opener. What do you think about that track?
Let me see. Throw My Bones. Where are we? Here we are. Okay. Yeah, good opener. Like that opening riff was really reminiscent of something that like of like early Deep Purple. Like maybe you could even hear Ritchie playing it. I mean, not that Steve Morse sounds anything like Ritchie, but you know, it just something about it sounded really classic Purple. Like I said, Ian Gillan's voice is like eerily unchanged. Like,
yeah, right.
Like he sounds like his voice sounds a little different, like in the 80s and 90s and beyond than it did in the 70s, but it still has that same kind of tone to it that he had, like I guess starting, you know, in like the early to mid 80s. I mean, he, you know, obviously doesn't have the high register anymore, but I mean, you know, that mid register, it's almost, he sounds the same.
Yeah, much like Coverdale too. He's learned what he can and can't do, and he's not gonna try to belt out a crazy scream like he did in the 70s, or into the 80s and 90s for that matter. But yeah, he's found a good range that works for him, and they've done some double tracking that sounds really good. His voice sounds great. He's using his voice, the instrument of his voice, the best in a smart, in an economical way, and it sounds awesome.
Yeah, really like heavy bass.
And
really
it reminded me a little bit of like Ted the Mechanic or something, like when it starts off, like it has that kind of like same heavy groove, which I really like. The chorus to me, I what I like about it is you get that really heavy groove in the beginning, and then the chorus is like very melodic, and I really like the chord changes. It really reminds me of the chorus of a Beatles song, the song called The Word. I don't know why, but it just, every time I hear that, like when I'm singing it to myself, I'll sing the chorus, then all of a sudden I'll find myself, you know, ever do that? Like you're singing a song and then all of a sudden you realize you're singing another song now, because it kind of has the same. So I find myself singing The Word. I'm like, why am I singing that? Oh, because I was just singing Throw My Bones. Yeah. So what do you rank Throw My Bone? And this, I think we're going to do this as a two-parter, and I think we'll probably end up coming back to this album again sometime, maybe after we get a chance to give it some more listens, and maybe do a revisit of at least talking about our ratings or talking about things. Because I don't know about you, but if I listen to an album, you know, if I listen to this album today and then I listen to it 25 more times, my thoughts on some of the songs will probably change dramatically, and I'll have a new favorite song, or
right,
you know, like some songs have a way of really growing on you in the scope of how they fit into the album. So
sure, yeah. So I'm going to start off by giving this one a 3.5.
All right.
Which just to qualify is like my rating for just an average good song. You know, it's like, it was definitely good. nothing wrong with it. Just that's my rating. To start off, I might change it.
I'm gonna give it a 4, and I again, I don't know if that's because I've listened. This is one I've listened to. I've probably listened to this one maybe a dozen times, and then the other song, Nothing at All, I've listened to I think once. So everything else will be a first listen, and the score might be adjusted because of that. So
Right.
the next track up has a great title, "Drop the Weapon."
Mm.
Oh, wow.
Everybody shouting, working up a sweat, stepping over lines, you know what happened next.
I love that organ tone.
And anyone can use, it's a predetermined thing. You lose your right to choose, no way to turn it around.
The bass and guitar and organ are all locked in really well.
Time to calm yourself down. Once you press the button, man, it's coming to a head. Pretty soon, babe, you'll be a long time dead. Little brother, I'm telling you now, your pride can take a hit. Little brother, take a deep breath. Cool off, man. Forget about it. Oh, drop the weapon, kick it away. Drop your gun, look the other way.
Multi-track on that vocal.
Drop the weapon, live another day.
Nice.
Drop your blade, listen to what I say. Who you trying to impress? You make
That like
him
chorus
a
sounds like it could be off
big
something
shot
from their
brother,
like
but
late
you're just a
80s
small
output.
kid.
Yeah, I was gonna say the way the song started off sounded very from the 80s too. Not the production, just the guitar and then the organ coming in.
Pride can take a hit.
It evokes some kind of classic 80s purple.
Little brother, take a deep breath. Cool off, man. Forget about it. Drop the weapon, kick it away. Drop your gun, look the other way. Drop your weapon, live another day. Drop your blade, listen while I say. No sound of silence, just streets of violence. We're in overload, wrong side of the road. Oh, San Francisco, where the hell did you go? We had enough of that peace and love.
Percussive organ backing up the solo. It's awesome. Classic back and forth solo here. Everybody's getting a chance to show off.
Drop your weapon, kick it away. Drop your gun, look the other way. Drop the weapon, live another
I wish there's
day.
something off of.
Drop your blade, listen while I say.
God, I'm trying to think of what album it's on. I don't know if it's like a
Streets of violence. We're in
House of Blue Light or
wrong side of the
I don't know.
there's something that's really reminding me of a little bit of his album.
did you go? We had enough of that peace and love. Come and hold my hand, then we can all stand and say a prayer to someone out there. Anyone out there.
Yeah, so it kind of goes into that 6/8 sort of part in the, I think it's for the chorus, and it starts off just kind of like just a 4/4 time signature, I think. And yeah, it kind of throws you off with some of the, I don't know if it's the way that Pace is playing, but it throws you off in some, a little throws you in one direction thinking they're going, you know, coming in on a different beat, and you think it's going one way. Kind of throws you for a loop a little bit there. Drop the weapon. And I'm trying to listen to lyrics, something that you may know that I never do. So try, because I've heard so much talk about this being a potential concept album, but I can guarantee you I will not be able to focus well enough to tell you if there is a concept, and if so, what the concept is.
Well, it's definitely like, you know, you could tell they're your typical quirky Ian Gillan lyrics.
Yep.
I mean, it's almost like if you hear a guitar tone, or, you know, some kind of tone sticking out, when you hear Ian Gillan sing, it doesn't even matter what the words are. He just like, you can just hear what he's saying. You're like, oh, that sounds like him. Not his voice, but like what he's saying too, like the lyrics. But yeah, this, so far what I'm getting off this album is like, I mean, yeah, they're a bunch of older guys, so they're not gonna, you know, go on full blast like 40 years ago, but it's like, this is definitely like laid back, like a kind of a slow burn rocker or rockin' album. It's very melodic, but it's not like balls out rock and roll. Like, that's not what they're about now.
Yeah, it's got more like some slight prog elements to it, which I think, I feel like Airey brings most of that, the way that he incorporates his organ in a way that, you know, people say that Deep Purple has always been prog, and I guess it depends. My feeling, or my personal definition of prog, that feels like this feels more proggy to me than some of the instrumentation. Like, the rest of it can be very straightforward, but sometimes like the things that Airey will throw in there. But like, for people to listen to in rock and say that that's prog, I mean, maybe the definition's just changed over the years, but that to me is not prog.
But no, that's like crazy rock and roll. Like, that's like, that was like a defining album. Whereas something like this is, you know, it's a very kind of measured tempo. It sounds very deliberate, which, I mean, is fine. You know, I mean, you could still be, I think it leaves more room for them to be melodic, because I've already hearing that in the choruses, than it is for them to just kind of like let loose and rip, which I don't think that's really the point of them these days. That's what I'm getting anyway so far from the first couple of songs.
Yep, for sure.
But yeah, it was good. You know, again, good production and playing, and because you could tell too, like Gillan's vocals too are like really close up. Like, it sounds like this really just kind of like dry production on his vocals. He's really like, you know, his voice is like, it's high in the mix. You know, I feel like he got really close up to the mic. You know, not a lot of effects. Like you said, there was some like doubling or tripling of his vocals, but that's about it. It sounds like it's, you know, not a lot of, you know, a lot of extras on here to like sweeten things up, which is good, you know. Because
and that's the good thing about Gil. They're still not, while there may be some more processing involved, and they are doing some of the double tracking, there's not like these crazy effects on his voice that'll make you think like, you know, that'll distract you from what he's trying to deliver vocally.
Right. So 3.5 again.
3.5, drop the weapon. I will mirror your 3.5. And again, I'm really looking forward to giving this, once we complete listening to this whole thing, taking a few commutes to work and listening to the whole thing, and seeing what, seeing how I feel about the album as a whole, and seeing how it grows on me. But so far, really, it's very solid. And you're much more of a Bob Ezrin, probably you have probably more knowledge of his work than I do, so you can, if there's any Bob Ezrinisms that are thrown in there, or if you detect anything, you can let me know. I mean, probably the thing I'm most familiar with from him is The Wall, I know that album like the back of my hand, but other than that, I don't know that I'm. And the other, couple Deep Purple albums he's done, I don't know that I've heard as much that you have probably.
See, that's the thing is like I don't really know that much about his producing style. Like I know he did a ton of stuff with Alice Cooper, which I'm not really into as much, but I mean I've heard some of his early stuff. And then of course like the 3 albums he did with Kiss, which were all way different, and there's only one of them that I really like, which was Revenge. The Elder was unusual. And Destroyer, which is, the popular one to like, is actually one of my least favorites, believe it or not. So when everybody always says that he has this really distinct style, I'm not sure what it is, because he's not really one of my favorite producers. I can't really pick out, like you said, Ezranisms, except that, he's very... I mean, obviously accomplished and, has done a lot of great things, but it's
he's
like,
probably, one of the top living producers out there. I mean, he's absolutely been involved with artists and specific albums that are just legendary. So much stuff that, Aerosmith and, Alice Cooper, like you said, Pink Floyd, Deep Purple, Peter Gabriel, just all sorts of stuff. Kansas.
I know that there are some things like vocally, there are some things that he does, like he'll run vocal. I think his kind of songwriting influence is running vocals counter to other vocals. Like if you've heard, like Billion Dollar Babies by Alice Cooper, or like, School's Out, the kind of like sing-songy, vocals during the breakdowns of the, choruses and stuff. He's done that with Kiss on a couple of albums and stuff. So I think like that's the only thing I can really think of.
And he co-wrote what may be my favorite Kiss song.
What?
Do you know what song that is?
I wouldn't know.
Do you have a guess? It's off of what many consider to be maybe not the greatest Kiss album.
What, the Elder?
Yeah.
Well, no, it can't be Odyssey because I don't think
that's not. It's not
because
Odyssey.
Tony Powers wrote that one. I don't know which one.
Come on,
No, I don't
World
know.
Without Heroes.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Love that song. It's one of my. It's not only one of my favorite Kiss songs. It's one of my favorite songs. Love that song.
Yeah, it's okay. I guess it depends what you're. I guess it depends on what you're in the mood for,
I give A World Without Heroes a 5. I'm giving it a 5. Not that anybody asked.
I certainly didn't ask, and I'm the Kiss fan on the show here.
Bonus episode: World Without Heroes 5. All right, next up, we have a track. This sounds like what it's called. We're All the Same in the Dark. For some reason, that just sounds like one of those schizophrenic rainbow songs where it's like got a Ritchie thing and like Ronnie's gonna be belting out like "We're all the same in the dark," it's not. It reminds me of that. What's the do you close your eyes?
Yeah,
like,
close your eyes?
It sounds like it would be a song like that, but let's see how accurate I am. We're all the same in the dark.
Probably not accurate.
Nice.
It's got a good groove to it.
Yeah, nice riff.
Consider
I like this bridge.
We're all the same in the dark.
Great.
Baby, won't you be my friend and love me right until the end?
Really love the organ tone they're getting on this album.
Guess we'll never know.
It's reminiscent of that
Down in Mexico.
old style Deep Purple organ sound, but just a little more crisp.
Yeah.
Little tambourine there, Ian. It's gotta be Ian.
As long as it lasts, there's no difference between
I like Gillan's vocals underneath this.
to tell the truth now.
He's doing it like an
The same in the
Nice.
dark.
It's funny he's doing all the backing vocals.
Yes, you know, I feel like now that I said that I don't know what an Ezranism is, I feel like that was part of Ezra's production. It's like having him like layer those vocals like that.
I know exactly who I am. I'm just like you.
Sound almost like John Frusciante for a second there. Not someone who I associate with Steve Morse very often.
Yeah, kind of a different solo.
But it's very Morse, and it sounds like it's almost done like halftime. And
And love me right until the end. You know that fashion come and fashion go. Melting like the summer snow.
melting like the summer
I
snow.
don't know what you see in me. Some would say that we're miles apart. When everything is said and done, and the lights go down, we're all the same. We're all the same in the dark.
Wow.
Really good.
They're sparing no expense with the double and triple and quadruple tracking for Ian Gillan.
Well, you know, that's the thing is that even if like, you know, I mean, you don't have to have like a ton of obvious effects on somebody's vocals for it to be edited or auto-corrected or whatever. But I mean, it's just like, I don't know. I just have a feeling that he still is that good of a singer because you don't hear him trying to go to the places that he used to go. So it would get edited, you know, or sweetened up like that. And
Well, and he's somebody that grew up not having that level of studio trickery, if you want to call it trickery. Maybe that's the wrong word, but
yeah, no, I would
was-
call it that.
you know, and for Jesus Christ Superstar, he did the entire album in 3 hours.
Right.
That's a fact that never ceases to amaze me. That he just
But I
went
mean,
in there and recorded. I mean, it's 80 minutes of music for the album, and he did his part in 3 hours. Like,
I mean, you know, you also got to think too, that was like what, 50 years ago. So
right, but there was no. I mean, he probably did everything in one take. There was
Right.
no, we'll do this in post. It was just like, no, you're gonna scream however you want to scream during Gethsemane, and that's what's gonna be that's what every singer is gonna be trying to emulate for the next 50 years. Like, end of story.
I
Like,
just think that,
he's got that like level of discipline and skill still.
well, I just think that like, you know, over 50 years and like, you know, thousands and thousands of concerts later, like, it doesn't sound like there's a lot going on with like overproducing his voice. It's really good, you know. I mean, it's like, and whatever production is going on, which I mean, you know, that there were little edits in there and maybe you know, something has to be auto corrected. I mean, it's slight, it's subtle, you know. He sounds natural. Like I would believe that this is him like singing.
Yep, for sure.
Like unassisted, you know. Like I feel like, and even the sound of the album, one of the things for the production too is, you know, how I always talk about how I like a big like roomy production. Like you can hear like there's like depth to the production too. Like you hear like you know, it sounds like, you know, they're all playing in the same room together. Like you get that ambience from the drums and you know, and even though I think vocals and guitar are mixed like way up front, but that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. You know, I mean, it's obviously it's just showcasing all the, you know, the talents of the musicians. So
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure, I mean, of course, like a lot of stuff with this episode, there'll be stuff that comes out afterwards, so we might look like fools, but I'm pretty sure that their process, and at least for this album and probably albums before this, is that they all play live together. They might overdub a guitar solo, and the vocals are most likely overdubbed afterwards, because that's just makes sense in the studio. So yeah, you get that feeling and I know when I was in the studio, we would always try to do the same, was just try to get the band to play together as much as possible, because you get a feeling that you can't necessarily emulate if everyone's laying down one track after another. So
so I give this one a 4.
Oh, great.
Yeah, this is like the first one that I really dig, and I think a lot of it is because of Gillan's vocals, and plus the fact that even though you said it's a really Morse type of solo, it's like it's not that overdriven, like, you know, it's almost, it almost sounded like he was like kind of chicken picking a little bit, you know. He was doing something a little different for this song. Like it wasn't, he's like, you know what, I'm going to take a left turn, and instead of doing a standard rock solo, I'm going to do something a little and mix it up, which I think is always fun.
I saw some, you know, the perpetual, and I hesitate almost to bring this up, but these Facebook groups where they talk about Deep Purple, and it's the same thing every somebody says something about Deep Purple, and then another person says it's not Deep Purple if there's no Ritchie Blackmore, and the same tired argument that goes on and on and on. And somebody was saying something complimentary about Steve Morse. It was like, oh, Steve Morse is a great player, but he sounds like every other player that's really skilled. He does no style of his own, and that's why I like Blackmore, because Blackmore has a distinct style. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I feel like Steve Morse has such a distinctive style. Like I've talked about it on many episodes. It's just that he does those great bends, but he also does a lot of those really like palm muted staccato little runs up and down the fretboard. And I would never loop him in with any of the more generic shredders, while he's got the skill for sure to be able to do all of that. I feel like he's got such a distinctive style, and I love the way that he plays. So I don't know where that comes from.
I think it comes from people honestly not really listening to him, because you could say that any, just, you know, just pick a style of music or a musician or whatever, and they'd just be like, oh, they all sound like everybody else. But I mean, you could, like Tommy Bolin, right? It's just like, if you play Tommy Bolin for somebody that doesn't know who he is, they just hear a guy playing guitar. But if you sit down and you listen to the albums he was on, just like you've listened to, admittedly, a lot more Steve Morse than I have, but I still pick up on his style and everything. You'll hear like the tone and like the, you know, the little things that they always do. Like you were talking about, you know, the staccato type of stuff that he does. I can even pick up on his, like, you know, his tone. It was like, you know, I call it kind of an overdriven, you know, type of tone. It sounds like he's using like a neck pickup, just from a guitar standpoint. It's just kind of like Tommy Bolin, how we know that, you know, he always does that, you know, when he goes into a solo. That's just like a thing he does. Or like with Ritchie, you know, you can, you know, just be like, oh, that's so Ritchie. Like when he's playing you know, he's just, you know, like riding the octaves during, like, you know, his rhythm playing, where he's like, you know, you know, like that type of stuff. And I mean, yeah, there's a million different things, but it's like, I just feel like anybody that says that a guitar player like him is just generic, or they don't, you know, they just haven't heard enough of his stuff.
Yeah, or they're just parroting what they've heard other people say and not necessarily thinking for
not
themselves.
Hearing.
Yeah,
right. After not hearing any of their stuff, they just hear other people say it, and they're like, "Oh, I'm just going to jump on board and say that too."
Well, it's just like all the knuckleheads. No Blackmore, no Purple, or whatever. It's just like you've just heard other people say that, and that's why you're saying it. You just,
well,
you know,
no Blackmore for 27 years, still Purple.
Yeah,
You know?
we're almost getting to the halfway point where Morse will have been in the band for longer than Blackmore had been or the band had existed until that point. It's just whatever.
I just think that, like, we could go down this road like all night, but I mean, the point being is that it's just like, the current lineup, of course, stands on the shoulders of those who came before them, including,
Sure.
Nikki and Rod. Everybody was there before. Nobody's saying they're not important, but the point being is that they're not here now. So it's like,
right.
If you love the history, then like this is part of the history. Like this is where Purple is today. And you know what? They wouldn't have gotten there if they didn't start and they didn't have all those different phases. So,
yeah. And if you're wondering if it's Deep Purple, let's just check again real quick. What does it say on that album cover? Oh yeah, Deep Purple. Okay, just wanted to make sure I was, that we weren't reviewing some other band here.
So
okay.
what do you give it? What do you?
Oh
give
yeah,
it?
I'll give it a 3.5. But I have a funny feeling that on listening to his album again and again, that this could probably easily bump up to a 4. I really like it. I love that Gillan is doing more in recent years with his vocals as far as double tracking and stuff. It really keeps things interesting and shows the musicality and the writing behind what he does. And I think a lot of people can easily discount a singer, say like, oh, they just show up and write lyrics or whatever, but it's not easy being a singer. And it's especially someone of his caliber, and for him to get creative like this and do all these harmonies, it's beautiful. It sounds great.
Well, that's the other thing too. I mean, at their age and also at that point in their career, they're like one of the only kind of well-known bands that I could think of. I'm sure there are a lot more that I don't know that are still releasing new music when there are so many people saying, there's no point in writing a new album. It's not, we're not going to make any money off of it. What's the point? These are all the songs people are going to go to the bathroom when, we play them in concert, who cares? They don't give a shit. They're still making new music.
People will be so happy to be at a concert again if they do go they won't go to the bathroom. They'll just pee in their pants because they'll just be so happy to just stand there and be at a concert again.
You gotta hand it to these guys. They're all legends, and they're all still putting out new music. And
and support them. Don't just listen to this on Spotify. If you want to support the band, and not that anyone in Deep Purple is going to go hungry, but I bought the digital album, I bought the physical CD, and I bought the LP because it's like, why not? How often do I have a chance to give any money to Deep Purple given how much of their stuff I already have? So try to support them if you can. If you've got to take a couple months off of being a patron, support the band. It's important. And I think it's really important to buy things the way that artists want you to buy them too. And I don't think there's many artists that want you to only listen to them on Spotify, because it's a complete loss for the artist. Probably great for Spotify, but not so great for the artists. Okay. What's the next song? Oh, Nothing at All. That's the name of the song. Nothing at All. So let's check this one out. Oh, yeah, this is the second single that they released. Love that little trade-off between the guitar and the organ.
Makes me think of a Christmas song. I don't know what.
Hear that? It does sound like it could be a Christmas song.
I don't know why.
Just a few of us walk arm in arm. It's innocent and charming. The children seem to be getting along. Don't worry, kids, it's nothing at all.
But that's really cool. It's got that kind of like those little melody lines are very classic Deep Purple, very classical sounding.
Yeah.
Very old school Deep Purple.
But in a much more mellow way. It sounds like almost like the little interlude on Burn or something, but put in a more mellow song.
That's really fun.
Yeah, and you really just the musicianship of all these guys. It's always easy to take it for granted, but listening to Morse play that. Talked about this before. Like sometimes you hear something and like, oh, you kind of know what he's doing there. No clue what the hell Morse could possibly be doing there. I would love to see him play it because it sounds alien to me. It makes you wonder if Airey had come up with that on the keys and Morse learned it on the guitar, because it doesn't sound like something you should be playing on a guitar. Completely fades back for this.
Oh yeah, they're giving Don Airey a little showcase.
It's kind of like going off time there too. It's interesting. You kind of get those. That's where I get the proggy elements from. Stuff like that. Is he using some sort of delay on his guitar? Or is he just playing that? It seems impossible. This to me is so much more impressive than any level of like shredding or tapping. It's just people have to play an intricate melody line like that.
Oh yeah.
Right.
What's more interesting?
Yeah, this is something you do humming later. You're not going to be doing that with a finger tapping solo generally. Then she blew all the leaves off my
Because that is very kind of complicated, but you can still kind of hum it, like, or at least like sweet.
Like you're maybe not.
If you could do that with your mouth, yeah.
You're probably not doing it with like every single note, but like it's a nice little melody line.
But you can remember it. Whereas like when you're talking about shredders, it's just like you do the same thing. You got to. You don't
listen to a Michelangelo Badio song, and then later on you're like, oh, I love that part. It was so.
I love the part where he goes. It's like, all right, yeah. Sounds like I have a mouthful of peanut butter, and But again, this was like I really now I'm into like the album is just really full and rich sounding.
Yeah, it's exactly the word I was going to use. It just sounds so good, regardless of. And I think like there's songs and albums and things I can listen to where it's like I don't really care for the songwriting or I don't care for the songs, but I can appreciate the good production. And I think anyone would be able to listen to this, or anyone that's like into music on a production level could listen to this and know that it just sounds very well produced. And
absolutely.
But that being said, I think the songwriting on it is some of the best songwriting I've heard from them in years.
And also the title makes me think of the Simpsons episode where Flanders was wearing the skin tight ski outfit. Feels like I'm wearing nothing at all. Nothing at all.
Maybe that was the inspiration behind the song.
And then Homer's like, stupid, sexy Flanders. Do you remember that?
I don't.
He comes skiing up to him, and he's got this, skin tight ski outfit on when they're both at a ski slope to cut down on wind resistance. And he goes, "It feels like I'm wearing nothing at all." And he starts shaking his ass, and Homer's like, "Oh no!" And then he like turns around and like goes flying down the hill, and all he can think of in this thought bubble is like Flanders shaking his ass, going, "Nothing at all, nothing at all." And he's like, "Stupid, sexy Flanders."
Well, now that will be what I always associate with the song.
I mean, I'm sure all Simpsons fans do, which, a lot of them have to be around our age at this point. But all in all, like a great song on its own. I give that one a 4 because, again, great production, and it just really good songwriting, and it really evokes like that early classic Purple, but not the experimental, like out there, like on the fringe, like frantic sounding. Like that's not this album at all. But there are just so many good elements, like maybe I guess you can call them reined in elements of classic Purple in here. Just the fact that they're doing this stuff that sounds really kind of classical, really old school. I like it. Proggy, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and those two melody lines, like I said, like, or it's almost like taking the same sort of feeling and that little kind of almost, I don't know if I'm using the term correctly, but that almost Baroque sounding melody lines, and putting it in a song that's like of a much more mellow nature or slower tempo.
Right.
It really works well. It's great that, like you said, they can capitalize on that classic Purple trope, but yet turn it into something completely different. And I will also give this one a 4. And I feel like the first time and I've only listened to this one once, and I think the first time I heard it, maybe I wasn't paying close attention enough, but I don't feel like I liked it as much that time as I do the second time. So, all right. The next song up is called "No Need to Shout." What's that from? Well, you don't need to yell. Or is that from is that like what's his name? John Lovitz? Wasn't that like a Saturday Night Live thing? You don't need to yell.
Maybe.
Anyway, you don't need to yell. No need to shout. Ooh, that sounds lordy. Classic.
Yeah, that's another thing too. John Airey is not trying to be a John Lord clone.
Nope. Lynn style for sure.
Yep.
You stand there on your soapbox without fear, like a chanting, one-demented auctioneer.
Yeah, this has got that reunion Mark II feel to it as well.
And I don't want you chewing off my ear. No need to shout. I'm hearing what you say.
That's a nice riff.
Just shut your mouth and go away. You preach.
Actually, kind of sounds a little bit like Stormbringer.
Oh yeah, it does, huh?
A little bit.
Yeah, I can hear that.
I mean, maybe just the rhythm.
I can only hope that you won't ram it down my throat. Don't make me swallow it again. No need to shout. All right, I'm hearing what you say. No need to shout. No.
It sounds like there's other vocals in this one, not just Gillan.
Maybe. And when we saw him in concert, you saw that like him, Morse, and Glover were all singing together during one song, so maybe they did some backup.
Could be. Oh, listen to that. Piano. That's awesome. Ooh, a piano solo.
There we go.
Gershwin. I love Don Airey.
I got your message loud and clear. The meaningless is ringing in my ear. Oh, what a bunch of trash you got exuding from your ass. That's not the shit I wanna hear.
I don't usually listen to lyrics, but sometimes they do jump out at me.
What you say? No, no, wrap it up on your way. No, no, just shut your mouth and go away.
Oh. And Pace ending
Wow.
that with a little authority. Oh, that kicked some ass. I love how I like that he's got Gillan that has like a lot of like playfulness in his vocals. He's doing a lot of like and yeah and like or you know, he's like throwing in those little
Well,
I love when he does stuff like that.
Yeah, he always does, and he doesn't sound like he really lost it. So stop doing it.
All right, no need to
Very
shout.
cool.
What do you think?
3.5. I definitely thought it was good, but you know me, I like the rockers.
Mhm.
This one was it was interesting. I still thought it was good. Yeah, but I just think it was just average good. But you know, like I said, I think that like in part 2, we're probably gonna go back and maybe I feel like this could be the one episode where we can come back and revisit
Yeah, so
some of our
we'll have one
ratings.
episode for the front half of the album and a second episode for the back half, and then, you know, who knows, maybe in a couple months we can revisit it and just kind of talk about like how, after listening to it a few more times, what do you think? But
Well, yeah, because to be fair, most of these albums we've heard that we've reviewed, we've heard so many times
Right.
that we already have feelings about them. So
yeah, there's only a few that we've done so far where I think the only one that neither of us had heard was the Dream Theater Made in Japan, but that didn't necessarily
Doesn't-
count because
yeah,
we knew we knew the material. We were just really super impressed with that band doing it.
Right.
And then there was a couple that like you were more familiar with or I was more familiar with. But for the most part, yeah, these are albums we've been listening to for 30 years. So yeah, it's definitely interesting doing this to something that's so brand new. I will. I'm on the fence with this one, but I'm going to give it a 4 because I
Mhm.
really like that riff and just kind of. I like that even though I mean, we'll see what happens. There's a lot of songs on this album, but so far there's not a lot of long songs. You know,
Mhm.
3.5, 4 minutes. Nothing crazy long. So let me see if I can. Can I? See if I can add the time here. Length. There we go. Yeah, the longest song on this album is 5:35. I'm sorry, 5:39. And then there's a 5:35. Everything else is, for the most part, 4.5 minutes, 3.5 minutes. So that's good. They're not falling into that trap of having 13 tracks and they're all 6 minutes long each.
Yikes.
But the runtime of this whole album is 51 minutes. So
And what was Coverdale Page?
that was 60 minutes.
Yeah, so we're close.
And Coverdale Page was 11 tracks. This is 13 tracks and it's 10 minutes shorter essentially. So
Yeah.
so
So more
definitely,
songs, less long.
yeah, more
Yeah.
songs, less long.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm sticking with that.
No need to shout. So should we cut it off at this next one? Should this be our last track for tonight?
Yeah, I think that would make things bite sized for our
And then
fatigued listeners.
the next time we'll go the next episode, which we'll probably record in a day or two, will be the back half of the album, and then we could talk about maybe, 2 days from now there might be a little bit more out as far as reviews and stuff like that. So this last track, and our speculation had been a while back, I don't know if you remember, is that what if this was a New Kids on the Block cover, because this song is called Step by Step. It would be interesting if they threw in a cover from New Kids on the Block. Let's see if it is or if it's an original. We could finally answer that question. It's been killing me for months now. So here we go, step by step. Nope.
Oh yeah, that's New Kids.
And KOTB all the way.
Classic New Kids. You know, they always have like, you know, a just a grand organ in there, grand church organ.
Rattle through the night. Don't look now. There's no end in sight. Step by step, moving on through the graveyard shift. No way out. That's the truth about the silent. Shuffle through the heat, stay in time.
This is very dark sounding.
Inch by inch.
A really different song for them.
Never dance alone. Stand close, holding on to a bag of bones. Worming your way into my
Almost like a little Bach fugue throwing there for a couple bars.
getting too tight, taking me over and stealing my soul. Oh, oh, stealing my soul.
Pretty good number of fade outs on this album.
Wow.
I think one thing's for sure. I want to hear New Kids on the Block cover this.
No, they can stay away. That was really that was different. That
Yeah.
really made me think of like an updated version of something that you would have found on like maybe the first couple of Deep Purple albums. You know what I mean? Like just think about like the creaky old production,
Mhm.
Rod singing. You know, I think a lot of it has to do with the keyboards.
Yeah.
Because you don't really hear that type of stuff in rock, like that, in rock music that they did back then, and I think they're kind of bringing it back a little bit in their sound, like calling back to that early Purple before any of them were even, well, except for Ian Paice, he was in all of it. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, it was pretty different, I think, for them. Pretty different, but a little familiar, maybe.
Yeah, it does sound kind of like some of those instrumental, like that. I think it's in April, that like the instrumental interlude that John Lord does.
Mm-hmm.
That has a similar
That's it,
like
yeah.
organ sound to that. Does seem like kind of a throwback, but it's out there. It's very I don't even know what the right word is, but it's a different, it's like a sort of a different style, and it seems it's experimental, and I like that they're trying something new.
Unique, yeah.
All right, what do you think about Step by Step?
I'll give it a 3. I like, all things being said, it's it didn't grab me like the other songs, but I definitely give it points for being, like you said, kind of original, yet it's a throwback. So I know.
Yeah, and it's a little jarring, like in that it switches up. I couldn't tell if they were going to like 1 bar of 5/4, but it seemed to be like in 6/8, and then there was that one thing I was trying to count along with the lyrics and everything, but it sounded like they were going to like maybe a 1 bar of 5/4, or maybe it was just they were doing something different with the rhythm to switch it up, but it was a little harder to tap your toes along to.
Right.
But I'm going to give it a 3.5 on the strength of not only the playing of Don Airey, but the particular keyboard sound he had in that interlude. I thought it was almost like a kind of a haunting sound.
Yes.
And I really, really, really liked it. I would love to know on a technical level what was going on, like what the heck he was doing with that, because it sounds really cool. We should have interviewed him after the album came out. Maybe we can interview him again. It's funny, somebody released an interview of him today, and he was sitting in the exact same spot, the exact same shot that when we interviewed him. So I thought they had posted our interview, but then I realized, we never put the video up. So I saw the shot and I was like, oh my God, somebody has our video. Yeah. So, 3.5. Yeah. So that takes us to the end of 6 tracks. There's 7 more. Yeah, 7 more tracks. So we've gone through so far 23 minutes of the album, and we got about 28 minutes left.
That's fair. That's a good split right there.
Yeah, pretty good split, but as close as we can get. Either way, one episode would get a few more minutes worth of music. But next week we'll probably just jump right. So we won't have the stuff to cover beforehand. We'll jump right into the remaining songs. I say next week, but next tomorrow episode, or whenever. And yeah, this episode will come out on a Friday, which is unusual, on the day the album comes out, and then the follow-up will be the following Monday on our normal show day. So you'll get part 2 on our normal show day, and we'll wrap up this album and talk about anything that's come out in the last couple of days since the album came out. And it should be a couple of shorter episodes, but overall, you're getting more Deep Purple podcasts this week. More bang for your buck.
Hey-o.
Especially if you're a patron. But yeah, I guess that covers the first roughly half of Whoosh so far. I'm very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah,
really happy with what we've been hearing. I'm looking forward to hearing the other. Actually, the tough part is I'm gonna have to not listen to the rest of these tracks until we talk tomorrow, the next day. But that's all right. I'll listen to. Maybe I'll just put the first 6 tracks on repeat and listen to that. All right then. And we'll see you in a day or two. We'll
see you for the second half.
Awesome. All right. Have a good one.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Deep Purple podcast. If you like what you hear and would like more episodes in the future, please donate on Patreon to support the show. You can also give us a rating on iTunes to help new people discover the show. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for show updates. See deeppurplepodcast.com for more details. Thank you for listening.